Hunters, have you ever been told that you can't use Threadlings the same way Warlocks can? If so, they're right. However, we can use them in our own special way, especially this season with the artifact playing heavily into Unravel and a good portion of the Hunter kit playing into Unravel as well. So today, I'm going to show you how to make what I have deemed the Threadling Storm build. It's a lot of fun. It can spawn a lot of Threadlings, it can chunk down bosses and champions, and it's honestly just a lot of fun to use. So like and comment if you really like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, as it helps me out a ton, and let's get right into this video. The exotic that we're going to be looking at today probably isn't the one that you think we're going to be using. Today we're going to be looking at the exotic helmet Foetracer, which comes with the exotic trait Relentless Tracker. Damaging a powerful combatant or guardian with an ability grants you a temporary bonus to weapon damage matching your subclass type. Defeating that target with a weapon matching the damage type of your subclass generates an elemental pickup. Now I know when people think of a Threadling build for Hunter, they're immediately going to go 6 Coyote and Threaded Spectre, and I can't blame them. I played with that for a good week and it was a lot of fun. However, I feel like it struggled in that high-end content with being able to put out the damage we need to put out against bosses and even champions. So I fell back to Foetracer, because with this, when we damage a major, an elite, or an enemy player, we're going to get 4 stacks of the weapon surge type matching our subclass. In this case, it is going to be Strand. When we damage a target that fits that description with an ability, they're going to become highlighted, making it a lot easier for you to figure out which enemy you need to defeat to then make your elemental pickup, which again for us is going to be a Tangle. Unfortunately, even though this exotic is really good at making those elemental subclass pickups, we cannot override the 12-second timer that we have for our Tangles, but what this is going to do is make it a lot easier to make those Tangles when we need them as soon as that timer is up, basically infinitely chaining the Tangles we're going to be able to make, which is going to be really easy, and this is going to give us that free 4-time surge bonus for 10 seconds when it is active, increasing our strand weapon damage by 25% in PvE. That means when it comes to weapons, we're going to want to take stuff that works very well with this build setup, and I have a few good options. Quicksilver Storm is great. It's a strand auto rifle. It works great against overload champions this season, and it can also generate its own Tangles. We also have the Strand Bow Wishkeeper for unstoppable champions, and it has 4 different catalysts for you to pick from, so you can really make this particular bow be whatever you want it to be, whether that be having Vorpal to do more damage or have Hatchlings so you can just make more Threadlings. I, however, wanted to take something a little different. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Strand Sidearm Final Warning, which comes with the exotic trait All at Once. Holding down the trigger marks targets within range and loads multiple bullets which fire in a burst with increased stability on trigger release. Hitting a marked target with a fully charged burst will unravel them. With this being a sidearm, we can easily deal with barrier champions from a good distance with the tracking, which is really nice, and you can shred those barrier champions with ease. Secondly, with the unraveling, we can play into our artifact very nicely and make Threadlings from that. It also has the trait Pick Your Poison. Hip firing projectiles will track marked targets, dealing increased body shot damage on impact, and aiming projectiles have greatly increased velocity and deal extra critical hit damage to marked targets. This is just going to give us the ability to deal extra body shot damage or even more critical damage when we aim, making this thing a powerhouse. However you decide to use this, with the addition of Foetracer's 25% damage bonus that we're going to get for just using our abilities. Speaking of abilities, we're moving on to our class setup, in which we're trying to do 2 things. The first is to easily keep our strand surge bonus up from Foetracers, and to do that we're going to take the aspect Whirling Maelstrom. Destroying a Tangle will weave a violent writhing mass of strand fibers. The strand mass seeks out and damages targets, emitting unraveling projectiles when it defeats them. This aspect is incredibly strong. It can shred targets like they are nothing, even in that high-end content. This also counts as an ability to activate Foetracers when thrown at champions and bosses, so we can get that strand surge bonus easily, and it can make another Tangle from itself if you time it correctly. Also, because it can unravel targets, the artifact perks we take is going to play off of this very, very well, which is going to lead us to our second thing we're trying to do with this build, and that is make a massive army of Threadlings. For this, I like to take Threadling grenades and Widow's Silk. You have an additional grenade charge, and your grappling hook creates a grapple tangle at the grapple point. We can quickly spawn 6 Threadlings by throwing these 2 grenades back to back, which means we're going to want to find things to reduce our grenade cooldown as much as we possibly can. So we're going to take a look at our first fragment, Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy with a -10 to discipline. I know this got a nerf and it hurts our discipline overall, but trust me, this fragment is still very, very good. It counts all our damage instances for the grenade energy. This includes your unraveling damage, the threadling damage, our weapon damage. Any damage we're going to do is going to generate that grenade energy, and it adds up extremely quickly to the point that we don't even need to take things like grenade kickstart, which is going to be very helpful when we look at our armor mods. Since we're going to be making a bunch of Threadlings, we're going to want to make them better by taking the fragment Thread of Evolution. Threadlings travel further and deal additional damage with a +10 to our intellect. This fragment makes them travel 30% faster and 30% further, which is very helpful in that high-end content. On top of that, our Threadlings are going to do 53% more damage to miners and elites, and then 33% more damage to bosses and mini-bosses, making it perfect for what we are trying to do. With that, we're also going to take Thread of Rebirth. Strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a Threadling. We want all the Threadlings we can possibly make, so with this fragment, Final Warning, or any of your Strand weapon of choice, we'll have a 34% chance to make a single Threadling off of miners, a 67% chance to make 2 from elites, and a 100% chance to make 3 Threadlings from bosses. The final fragment we're going to take is Thread of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail with a -10 to our resilience. We just want the 40% damage reduction that Woven Mail is going to give us, as survivability is always nice, especially in that high-end content. For armor mods on this build, starting with our helmet, we're going to take Harmonic Siphon, so our strand weapons can make us Orbs of Power, Ashes to Assets, so our Threadling grenades can give us more super energy, and Heavy Ammo Finder because extra ammo is always really nice to have. On arms, we're going to have Firepower, so our Threadling grenades can make us Orbs of Power. Then I have 2 Impact Induction, so our melee can help feed us our grenade even further. For chest, you can run Reserve or Resist mods depending on what you like. And for our legs, this is where things can kind of be very interchangeable. You can either take the Surge mods of the other weapon damage type you're using, like for me, I'm using Cartesian, so I would use Solar Weapon Surges, but instead I just took orb pickup mods like Better Already to help with survivability and Innervation to help us feed our grenade even further. On Cloak, we're going to take Reaper for orb creation, Powerful Attraction to pull orbs to us, and then finally Bomber just so we can top off any grenade energy we may need. For the artifact, the 2 most important mods were going to be Unraveling Orbs and Horde Shuttle. Unraveling Orbs is going to make it so when we pick up an Orb of Power, our strand weapons will get unraveling rounds. That's going to unravel targets when we damage them, and then Horde Shuttle is going to make it so when we deal damage to an unraveled target, we have a chance to make a Threadling. Both of these play a huge role in this build, as with Horde Shuttle making it so unraveled targets have a chance to drop a Threadling, our Whirling Maelstrom has a chance to just make Threadlings by existing and damaging targets, which is amazing, and it allows us to generate more Threadlings than we really know what to do with. For stats, I love my high resilience and discipline for this build. With Thread of Generation though, you can get away with a more of a mid-tier discipline, so that's going to help you spread out your stats a little more into whatever you particularly like. My final thoughts on this build is that this build is actually a ton of fun to use, like running through like just Lost Sectors, or just like even running through Coil, which is an even better example. You can get rid of a lot of ads really quickly with the Whirling Maelstrom and the Threadlings it generates before we even really do anything with our weapons, which again is really, really huge, especially in those higher end activities where a lot of the ads have a bunch of health. The other version of this build, which was the 6 Coyote and Threaded Spectre build, is actually a really good for more of a defensive playstyle with this same set in mind, because Threaded Spectre is going to pull the aggro away from you, making it so this way you can stay alive a lot better, but I like to play very aggressively, so this version of the build with Foetracer and Whirling Maelstrom is just better for me. But again, you can run this same exact setup with 6 Coyote and Threaded Spectre, so keep that in mind if you do not feel comfortable being that aggressive playstyle playstyle that I have offered to you in this build, and in some cases it may be better. But with that, that is the end of this video. So again, like and comment as that helps me out a ton, and subscribe as that helps the channel out a ton, and I'll see you guys in the next video.